So Interstate 40 runs from Wilmington, North Carolina to Barstow, California. East-west highway all across the country. And here in western North Carolina and East Tennessee, it passes through the Pigeon River Gorge, a rugged landscape. And that section of highway opened in 1968. Not designed for wildlife populations significantly lower than they are now. So we have more people, more development, more wildlife. It's a recipe for conflict. So from 2019 through 2021, we did regular driving surveys to look for dead animals on the side of the road. And during that time, we saw just over 100 dead black bears on the side of the road. Now, research indicates that we can probably factor that number times 2.8. So as bad as 100 plus dead bears sounds in a 3-year period of time, the problem is significantly greater than that.
Beyond wildlife mortality from vehicle collisions, there's a potential barrier effect going on with the roadway. So wildlife won't even attempt to cross, and that is going to reduce and fragment this population to be only using one certain area.
The I-40 Gorge is a good place to consider wildlife passage and possible wildlife collision problems because there's an extensive amount of public lands on either side of the highway, so there's a diverse wildlife resources in the area, and it's highly constricted through there. So when wildlife does access the road, it's got a high likelihood of having collision problems.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to drive along I-40 and see a barrier that's this high to realize that most wild animals are not going to get through there. I've been here 31 years now, and the visitation has grown from 8.5 million to 14 million. A lot of that increased visitation includes traffic on I-40.
So an important aspect of our research is collaring elk and tracking their movements to understand where these conflict areas are along the Pigeon River Gorge road corridor. And so here with the map, we see a female elk, a cow that every year left the Cataloochee Valley and crossed the interstate to have her calf on the other side. She crossed the interstate 107 times in the 3 years we monitored her. So this just signifies, we know animals are looking for resources, mates, and things like that, but just the need for space.
When you look at the problem holistically, and not just look at it as, oh, we've got an animal collision problem. It's an economic problem. Just the impacts of stopping traffic on I-40 has ripple effects in the economy. It's not just one person's problem, it's all our problem.
In 2017 came together, federal, state, tribal, non-governmental organizations. We discussed, is this something that we can try to address? Seemingly intractable, right? How do you prevent wildlife vehicle collisions on a 28-mile stretch of roadway? It takes collaboration.
The Safe Passage Project first started with a focus on wanting to understand the impacts of Interstate 40, and that started with speaking to a lot of experts, looking at the research that's already out there, coming together and designing a project. So to study wildlife in a 28-mile section of road, we divided the roadway into 400-meter segments. So we monitored wildlife vehicle collisions, and then in some of those segments, we put up these wildlife cameras. We also used wildlife cameras to monitor current structures already under the roadway to see if wildlife are currently using those. We ended up with 150 cameras to monitor wildlife for our study.
So here in western North Carolina and East Tennessee, we don't have any wildlife overpasses right now. I think the long-term vision for this project is that our recommendations is a roadmap for the DOTs for long-range planning. Right? We can't fix everything. There's not enough money to fix everything. Right? So we need to prioritize things and over a period of time, gradually install green infrastructure.
So far, here in particular at Harmondale, we have replaced the bridge. We've built this bridge as a two-span bridge that's allowed a wider open area under the bridge. We've also, so far, we've roughed out the 2 wildlife paths under the bridge, and that'll help the wildlife move back and forth. I think the relationships and the collaboration that has been built upon, that will translate into other projects.
I'm just glad to be a part of this project. I can't wait to see a bridge over the top of the interstate and know that bears and elk and other species are crossing.
My vision for the future would be, we have structures, a linkage system in the gorge for wildlife to move safely. And that information we've learned in the gorge allows us to then implement those throughout the southern Appalachians. So a truly connected east so that these conservation efforts and wildlife can thrive.